Hey, what is up, YouTube? Welcome back to the show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. It is a Friday night, and is it just me, or does it feel like Saturday? But welcome back to another show. We've got a ton of news, updated information just for you right here in this video. It is loaded with a lot of Social Security stimulus check, things that we're going to be talking about, breaking news live. And guys, Donald Trump is actually winning some key battlegrounds. You're looking at a mass deportation since Biden signed that executive order into place. There's a lot of things happening. We've got the updated current news on everything that is happening, and you're not going to want to miss this video. Thank you so much for tuning in. We've got a ton of great news for you guys on a Friday night. Yes, Friday night. I haven't done a night video and it's been a few days, but definitely wanted to get you guys a huge updated information. Yes, information that definitely just come out talking about a huge $1 trillion boost for Social Security. Social Security, which is set to become insolvent, literally could get a $1 trillion boost due to the immigration surge. And this is what experts in Congress were discussing. The House Ways and Means Subcommittee on Social Security met this week to discuss the program's future financial situation, as funding is likely to run out by 2035 if nothing changes. But there again, they said, why not give a huge boost to all those on Social Security? And this is where we're going to keep you guys updated on everything that's going on. We've got a ton of great news right here in this video just for you. And I'm going to get this information here. I want to show you kind of exactly what is going on. So again, we've got Social Security update. We've got a lot of things happening. Joel, Crystal, Hank, Ruth, hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Your love, support mean the world. We've got a very beautiful day, very great day today, and we want to thank you for tuning in because a lot of things are happening, guys, and a lot of things are taking place. And while some of you have seen our previous videos on the executive order signed by Biden, there's a deportation that is actually taking place. But could it actually be in a positive way that affects Americans in a good way, or is it in a bad way? Stay tuned to find out. But we definitely want to show you some updated stimulus check news to show you guys exactly what is going on. We want to make sure to keep you updated on all the current things that are happening. And if you haven't already, guys, make sure to hit that like button. We definitely want to keep you updated on everything that is going on, just because we know a lot of things are changing, a lot of things are happening. And guys, you never know, guys, what actually might take place. And this is where things are taking place that are shocking Americans. You and I both know things have happened over the last couple of days that have really, well, is it going to happen? Do we believe it? And what would actually take place? So we are definitely keeping you guys updated on all this news, on things that are happening, so that way we can stay atop all this great news, guys. So we want to keep you updated. Thank you so much for tuning in. Your love, support mean the world, and we will be sure, guys, to keep you updated on everything that's happening. So much, guys, so much positive news, so much great things, and we will make sure to let you know exactly what is going on. So we're going to get started, and I want to show you this right here on the screen because this is, you know, a big thing. Social Security could get that $1 trillion, not billion, but yes, $1 trillion boost. And some of you are saying it's about dang time. Where have they been with all this? Why haven't they already done it? And again, so many people are wondering, when are we actually going to see some big changes happening? Because guess what? Americans need this money. And so many of you guys know that it's a long time coming. It's a long time coming. And so many people, they're ready for a change. They're ready for things to happen. And this is where we definitely could see some major changes. And we definitely want to know that Social Security is being taken care of. So many of you guys are depending solely just on that to take care of your income, and it's been very difficult considering the fact of how much things have went up. We were at the grocery store today, and literally, like, Do we buy stuff? How do we? I mean, it's just guys. It's like, what do we do? You know, because guess what? Things are happening. Things are taking place that affect everyday Americans. So Social Security could get a $1 trillion boost. Social Security, which is said to become insolvent, is what they're talking about. But Congress has had a meeting talking about how do we fix it? How do we get you guys $1 trillion to the program? And due to immigration surge, the immigration surge definitely from 2021 to 2026 will result in about $1 trillion in additional revenue. And this is what officials are talking about, and they're going to be talking about it this week. And Democrats and Republicans have fought over the issue of Social Security for many years, with both sides accusing the other of attempting to enforce cuts. It's been a big battle, but at the same time, we all know that what are you going to cut? Social Security definitely in major need. But I do want to show you this, guys, so we'll get back to that here in just a minute. But we've got some big news, and we really want to keep you guys updated on what is going on. Check this out, guys.
Live now from Fox, I'm Andrew Kraft. Live now, look there at the White House. It's been 2 days now since President Biden's executive order to deal with the crisis at the southern border has been into effect. We want to talk about its effects. Is it having an effect? That's, of course, we're going to do that with our friend at the Washington Examiner, Anna Giratelli, who covers all things the southern border. And Anna joins us. Anna, do you have me?
Yes.
All right, Anna, thanks so much for being with us here. Let's talk about some of the fallout from this executive order. Can you tell us if it's having its intended effect here, and what was the intended effect to begin with?
Yeah, so the order was intended to prevent migrants who come across the southern border illegally from being able to seek asylum if certain thresholds were met. So if more than 2,500 people crossed illegally in a day, it would trigger that ban. And so what we expected was lots of repatriation flights to be going on, taking people back to their countries of origin all around the world. And like you said, it was put into effect earlier this week and was just starting to be rolled out by Border Patrol across the 2,000-mile southern border.
You know, Anna, I wanted to ask too, Bill Malugin at Fox has some reporting, and he says, according to his CBP sources, that Border Patrol apprehended just about 4,000 illegal immigrants between ports of entry at the southern border yesterday. I believe, actually, that was Wednesday here. So he says that's about on par, perhaps a little bit higher than what the averages have been in recent weeks. I know executive orders, take some time to have a full-throated effect here. That was just the day after. But is that an indication of how this is going to go, or should we give it some time?
No, you really should be seeing things change overnight. You think of previous asylum bans, under Trump, things took place immediately. And really what I was hearing from Border Patrol agents in San Diego yesterday, Southern California, where they're seeing people from not just Central America and Mexico, but the Eastern Hemisphere, Asia, Africa, Europe, all over.
A lot of different.
They were given instruction after the executive order not to repatriate people, send them back to their home country, not to put them in removal proceedings, but to release them into the U.S. and leave them to the court system, which goes against President Biden's very executive order.
Anna, let's get into your reporting a little bit more here, and how does that factor into the executive order? You write that a government document given to federal law enforcement in San Diego following Biden's executive order to keep migrants from seeking asylum in the U.S. advises migrants from all but 6 of the more than 100 countries in the Eastern Hemisphere be released into the U.S. rather than deported. So that was in the executive order, and it's not being followed? Correct me if I'm wrong here.
No, it's not. And just so you understand, so the southern border is divided into 9 sectors or regions by Border Patrol. Each chief of each region decides how they're going to not necessarily carry it out, but with the resources they have available, with the type of people they see crossing, how they're going to carry out border enforcement. And so,
they don't really, I think, have a good idea, guys, of how crazy all this is. I don't think they really have an idea of how overwhelming that this population that's come over is affecting our country. Check this guys out.
Congressman Chip Roy. First, let's go to Bill Maloogian at the border near San Diego. And that's where, Bill, I understand you witnessed the crossing of hundreds of illegal immigrants from Turkey, China, Egypt. Bill.
Yeah, Harris, absolutely nothing has changed down here as a result of this executive order. We continue to see mass crossings without any resistance whatsoever. We continue to see mass releases, and we continue to see Border Patrol completely outmanned. Take a look at this video. We shot this late yesterday afternoon right here in Jacumba. This is what Border Patrol has to deal with out here. You got one single agent who has to try to corral this huge group of 150 people from all around the planet who crossed illegally. They've been waiting there for Border Patrol to pick them up for 5 hours. They were getting impatient. You got language barriers, people from China, from Turkey, from Mauritania, from the Middle East. There's no translators out there for these border agents. They can't process all these people and patrol the border at the same time. They need more manpower, and we talked to a handful of these migrants. Take a listen.
From Egypt.
From Egypt? Yes. All from Egypt?
Yeah, group Egypt. Egypt.
Good America.
Egypt.
America good. Good America?
Yes.
Yeah?
Good.
Yeah?
Good.
Well, why'd you come to America?
And business and the group.
You want to work? Job?
Work, yeah.
Job.
This friend.
Yes.
Group of friends, you guys want a job?
Yes. America, good.
America.
Yes.
Okay.
Good.
America good.
I'm from Turkey.
Vietnam.
Vietnam. All from China?
Yeah.
Why'd you come to America?
For free.
To be free?
Yes.
And then Harris, look at this. We were on scene in San Diego as we witnessed Border Patrol once again mass releasing hundreds of these illegal immigrants to city streets, just dropping them off at a local trolley station. Once they're done with federal processing, they're let go with their future court date, sometimes years in advance into the future, and they are then able to travel the country with that NTA paperwork, that notice to appear. People from all around the world being dropped off. Asia, the Middle East, Africa. DHS likes to talk about consequences for people crossing the border, but for a lot of the people that cross here in San Diego sector, they end up just getting released. And back out here live, been an interesting morning. Just a few moments ago, we had a group of Colombians cross illegally in front of us. They climbed over the wall, and they asked us, are we in Texas or Arizona? We said neither, you're in California. We also came across a group of Chinese that crossed illegally. They got placed into a Border Patrol van, and somebody wrote in the dust on the back of that Border Patrol van, quote unquote, illegal alien Uber. That's how a lot of people feel about it out here.
I
We'll send it
mean,
back to you.
they're laughing at us. The cartel know that they have a complicit government at this point in this country, and they are laughing at us, sending people who don't even know where they're going to be dumped off. They just know they've come illegally, and they can stay. Bill Maloogian, thank you.
Yep.
Republican Congressman Chip Roy of Texas, now member of the Judiciary Rules and Budget Committees. Could you hear that? I mean, they didn't know even what state they were crossing into. They just knew that they were here, and they didn't have to leave. Congressman.
Yeah, Harris, first of all, thank you for shining the light on this problem as you do regularly. And thank Bill for all of his great reporting. It is frankly because of Bill and some other of the intrepid reporters out there that we actually know the truth, what we're seeing right there. I mean, we've had 24,000 Chinese nationals who've come into this country since last October. That's more than all of last year when we had about 24,000 in 2023, which is far more than I think the several hundred that we had in the 2021 timeframe when we were still operating under President Trump's policies. Look, we've got people coming from all over the world, but I want to pause for a second here. You know, we're all still commemorating the 80th anniversary of D-Day. I watched an interview of one of those patriots, one of those heroes, who said yesterday, I saw a quote where he said, "I feel like a foreigner in my own land." I want to think about that for a second, right? What those men fought for, what they died for, what they risked. They were fighting for a country that believes in the rule of law. They were fighting for a country that would have shared values, where we all come together as Americans to advance this, great idea and this great experiment. And now this president is blowing that all up by opening our doors contrary to law, risking our security. Laken Riley is dead because of his parole policies. Lisbeth Medina is dead in Texas because of his policies. We've got thousands of Americans dying from fentanyl poisoning. Texas wants to try to stop it, wants to try to secure our border, and the Attorney General of the United States is suing us to stop it. This is the reality of America today. And with all due respect to the president, who stood over there and gave a speech on D-Day, he's not actually standing up for the rule of law and the values that those men fought for. And this issue, this border issue, is front and center as to why this matters. And I'm so proud of Republicans for having passed a real border security bill last year. The president is giving up the game when he gave his speech last week and he said, oh, I'll limit it to 2,500. Harris, do you remember when they were chastising us because we opposed the Senate bill for its cap on 5,000? It's totally fake what they're doing. The president is showing up and he's now trying to get cover for election.
Okay, guys, so tell me, what do you feel about what we should do based off those that are voting and putting their input? You know, we've got 68% out of 31 votes to say close the borders. And a lot of it's security, guys. A lot of people, and guys, you got to remember, we've had a lot of things happen, but opposing a national security threat, there's people that are coming over that could be doing something like, it's just, guys, it's scary to think how many people are coming over for the wrong reasons, and we don't know because everybody's just coming through, being put in a van and being dropped off. And they get to go anywhere, roam freely. Scary, guys.
For the fall, but they have no interest in actually securing the border with all the exceptions you rattled off before.
So, Congressman, can you imagine if that had passed, where we would be now? I mean, I did the numbers on the cartels just sending a little fewer than 2,500, say 2,499, and we're still at over 900,000, almost a million.
Right.
So if you had all agreed bicamerally on that bill and it had become law, that bipartisan bill, as they call it, which I know many Republicans are staunchly against, if that had come into play, we would have had twice that many. It wouldn't have moved the needle at all, if not turned the spigot on even further. I do want to just go back real quickly to something that you mentioned, and I'm going to ask my team to do that. You said that there was development in the legal battle between Texas and the Biden administration over that razor wire protecting the border. An appeals court yesterday seemed open to blocking the administration from destroying state-installed fencing. Texas filed a lawsuit accusing the federal government of trespassing. And back in January, the Supreme Court allowed federal agents to cut and remove that wire. We'll remind everybody, because they can see that on screen, in the Rio Grande sector. You have gone back and forth. Where is it now?
Well, look, I mean, it's really critically important. The state of Texas, the Attorney General, Ken Paxton, the governor, they keep pushing back on the federal government because the federal government is trying to interfere with our ability to secure the border. And when I asked the Attorney General Merrick Garland, about this in the judiciary hearing last week, I said, do you think Texas has a right to secure our border, to protect our citizens in the face of what's happening when the federal government refuses to do it? And the Attorney General kind of paused and he said, well, it's a terrible human tragedy, but we'll just give you more resources. And I looked at him and I said, no, Mr. Attorney General, this is not about more resources. It's about allowing us to actually enforce the law. Texas is doing the right thing to stand up and fight. We're still having a battle over what's going on with the razor wire and all of those issues. But the fundamental issue is the ability of Texas to be able to take individuals and remove them. And I think that's at the core of the actual fight that we need to make sure is clear legally.
And will other states also step in and join you in this battle? Because when it stopped the flow, the razor wire, it then picked up in New Mexico and it picks up in California because the cartels are working the openings, as we're seeing. That's why, as you saw from Bill's report just moments ago, they don't know what state they're coming into. They're just told to cross wherever you can find a hole. Congressman, I have to let you go, but it is wonderful always on the program to get the latest from you, to get the perspective. And
it kills me, guys, to think that our entire thing of what is happening, literally, and you know what, it's devastating because people are still voting for Joe Biden. Why are we having such terrible issues and people still vote for this guy?
Where are you in the process of picking a vice president? Because you're getting close.
Well, yeah, but I think I'll announce who that person's going to be during the convention. We are now weeks out from Donald Trump's big reveal. All of these Republicans reportedly in contention to be vice president. The former president now tops President Biden in 3 key battleground states, Arizona, Florida, and Nevada. In new Fox polling conducted after his guilty verdict in New York, Biden won 2 of those states, Arizona and Nevada, back in 2020. Let's bring in South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, who is among those on Trump's rumored short list. Senator, it's great to have you on the show. I know that you are launching this outreach effort to voters, minority voters, but you've got to be bolstered and buoyed by the fact that so many young Black and Hispanic voters are already moving toward former President Trump.
Well, Trace, no, without any question, Trump is putting together a new coalition of working class voters. They are multiracial working class voters. It doesn't matter whether you're Black or white, Hispanic, Asian, or Native American. The one thing you must have is the opportunity to succeed financially. And under President Trump, we have the lowest unemployment rates for African Americans, Hispanics, Asians, a 70-year low for women, a 50-year low for the majority population. President Trump doesn't care whether you're a union worker or a non-union worker. If you work in America, he wants to make sure the future is very, very bright. The alternative, of course, is Joe Biden. Joe Biden has devastated, decimated our economy and the hopes of working class Americans across the board. It is time for 4 more years of Donald Trump, 4 more years of low inflation, low unemployment, and high enthusiasm. It's good news for the working class.
But you can see, Senator, I mean, you can see the left is starting to see this. They're starting to see the movement of minority voters because they're starting to go after, they're going after you, they're going after other Black Republicans. Justice correspondent for The Nation, Elie Mystal, was on MSNBC saying Black Republicans exist because they are grifters. Listen to him.
That's why Tim Scott exists. That's why Byron Donald exists. That's why Candace Owens exists, because the grift is good. There's a lot of money in telling white folks what they need to hear.
What do you say about that, Senator?
Listen, Trace, hear me clearly. They are shaking in their boots. What you hear is fear. It's palpable. Why? Because without the Black vote, there is no Democrat Party. President Trump is not playing racial politics, but he is aware that America builds a better future together. He is aware that making sure that all Americans have a chance to live their version of the American dream, it's good for our country. So absolutely, the left, they're losing their minds because they're losing their voters. It's good news for our future, and it's great news for our now. We must win because, listen, Trace, September and October, the Democrats are going to pull out all stops. They are going to do things, including lying and cheating, without any question. The coalition will stand the test of time because we have a record to run on. It's not promises of the future, Trace. It's the fact that we brought more money to Black colleges than any other president. It's the fact that we cut taxes for a single parent by 70%. It's good news. We have a record to run on, and it's time that we did that.
You say the Democrats are running a little bit scared, and I find this fascinating. We talked about the battleground states and how the former president is doing well in places like Arizona and Nevada, places that Biden won back in 2020. But it's interesting because Virginia is not considered a battleground state, and yet you look at the polls, Joe Biden won this by 10 points back in 2020, and now, according to the Fox News polling, it is deadlocked at 48-48. That's a big sign. Your thoughts?
Yes. Significant sign. We're seeing the same sign in all the states, all the battleground states. We're seeing the same kind of movement towards the Republican Party. President Trump is making sure that the American people know that he's willing to take the bullet for them, so to speak. He said very clearly, and one of the most patriotic things I've heard, Trace, is when the president said, "I'd rather it be me than you." That's the kind of leadership we can get behind. He was talking about, of course, the 2-tiered justice system where Joe Biden has weaponized and targeted his political opponent by weaponizing the justice system. We need a president who's willing to lay down on behalf of the American people. And Donald Trump is that person.
On my show, Fox News at Night, Senator, we ran a poll. We had the VP candidates up there, the VP favorites up there, and I said that you were the natural pick and it was going to be you. Am I wrong?
Well, listen, I don't know that it's about the who, it's about the what. There's no question that I am so excited to live in a country where my story is possible. A kid growing up in poverty in the deep South with a single mom working 16-hour days. For America to continue to evolve, where I'm even in consideration as a blessing. But listen, and listen to me clearly. The greatest threat to the continuation of the American story is Joe Biden. He is the greatest threat to American democracy. We must fire Joe Biden and hire Donald Trump. Poor kids today need to believe that all things are possible. And unfortunately today, we're seeing violence in the streets. We are seeing 10 million illegal immigrants cross our borders. We're seeing political opponents targeted. It's disgusting to see what's happened under Joe Biden.
Well, Senator Scott, I'm sticking with my pick. I think I'm right, and we will find out here in the next month or so. It's great to have you on the show. As always, best of luck. Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity.
Guys, there's so much, guys, so much that is happening, and people are finally saying, we've got to get this guy out of here, because if we don't, our country will not survive. So many people are done with this, but we're going to continue, guys, to show you some pretty crazy news.
Our dear friend Vivek Ramaswamy, former presidential candidate and now a great Trump campaign surrogate. Vivek, welcome back as always. Let's just give me a quick take. You heard the riff about the jobs report. Looking under the hood, it really wasn't a very good report. You have a thought about jobs in America today?
Well, the reality is they fluff up the jobs numbers by shifting more of those jobs to the government sector. And so the question is what your actual goals are, Larry. On one hand, their goal could be economic growth, and if so, they're failing miserably. But that's not actually their goal. Their goal is an expansion of the government's control of the economy. So it makes sense that though they actually prop up the jobs numbers, more of those jobs are driven by the government, you get exactly what you're shooting to achieve. So that's the net summary there. But as it pertains to the economy overall, there's some basic facts for the last 4 years that voters know in their hearts, but we'll just say it to verbalize it to make it clear. Prices have gone up, interest rates and mortgage rates have gone up, but wages have not kept up pace. And that's why Americans reject the Bidenomics fallacy. They understand how they've been affected. And you know what? I think economic growth can be a unifying agenda.
Yeah.
The Democrats have rejected it. I think it's our time as Republicans to once again unapologetically embrace that as our message. And I think we'll unite a lot of Americans, regardless of partisan affiliation, if we do.
You know, 100%, Vivek. Prosperity is always a tremendous unifier across all lines, ethnic lines, political lines. Vivek, hang on a second. Here's Mr. Trump in Phoenix on Thursday talking a little bit about economy and taxes. Take a listen, please.
We had the greatest economy in history during that short period of time. We had the greatest in history, the greatest jobs, greatest tax cuts, gave you the biggest tax cuts in history, biggest regulation cuts. Everything was good. But I'm telling you that this election coming up on November 5th, 2024, is going to go down as the most important day, because if we don't win, it's all of us, it's millions of people. If we don't win, this country is finished. I really believe that.
I mean, Vivek, you know, I would say he's on message. In other words, the point you just made about the unifying effects of economic growth, a point that I have worked on for my entire career. I think Mr. Trump is very much on message for this point. What do you think?
I agree with you. Success is the ultimate unifier. Biden ran on the campaign of national unity. He has abysmally failed, or we wouldn't be where we are. We are in a 1776, dare I say, Larry, even close to 1776 or 1860 type of moment in this country. It's sad to say it, but the question on the table is, are we actually one nation today or not? I believe we are. But the way we're going to remind Americans of that is actually through our own success, through reviving that sense of American exceptionalism, both through the economy and the revival of economic mobility and the American dream in this country. And I think that's why Donald Trump's message and the America First message is resonating so broadly, not just amongst traditional Republicans, but from the Bronx to the south side of Chicago to non-traditional audiences that we're seeing across this country now coming over to our side. It's because they understand they want a better life for their family and for their children. That goes beyond traditional partisan politics. And I do think Trump is doing a great job of staying, as you put it, on message. But the point is, it's actually on message for what's true in this country. We are one nation, but we're also skating on thin ice. And the guy who ran on national unity but failed, that's Joe Biden. Fire the guy who's failed and put back the guy in the office who actually got the job done for 4 years. That makes this one of the most unique elections in American history. It's a once-in-a-century opportunity where you get to compare as a voter the records of two people who have been president back to back. It was Grover Cleveland the last time we had that opportunity. Let's seize it this time and put back in office the guy who actually got it right from 2016 to 2020.
Vivek, related matter, slightly different but related matter. We just had a report from our Jonathan Hunt on the West Coast in Los Angeles, and we are tracking this. Bill Melugin is tracking this. Fox's great reporters. Illegals continue to come in. Biden has this new executive order with a lot of bells and whistles, but they're still coming in, 2,500 a day. We're running 3,800 illegally yesterday, 3,800. Nothing is happening. The Border Patrol is still letting them come through and releasing them into the interior of the country. We still have catch and release, Vivek. We do not have catch and deport. I don't get it. What is this Biden executive order? What is it doing, if anything?
It's doing one thing precisely, Larry, and that is providing a campaign talking point for Joe Biden. That's it. He had 4 years to fix the border. He failed abysmally. Not because they didn't know how, but because they actually didn't want to achieve the objective in the first place. Every one of those illegal migrants, they see that as the opportunity to convert a long-run Democratic voter. So they haven't had the incentive to control it. Now their incentive structure has shifted to create the appearance, I would argue the illusion of actually doing something about it. That's exactly what's going on. You want to fix this border crisis, fix the incentive crisis at the heart of it. End aid to any Central American country that isn't fixing that border crisis. Move our own military to the southern border. Use aquatic barriers in the Rio Grande. End birthright citizenship for the kids of illegals in this country. And tell everybody clearly that if you are in this country illegally, you will be returned to your country of origin. That it is logical, not racist or xenophobic, but that it is pure logic that says if we've had the largest influx of illegal migrants in American history, then we will require the largest mass deportation in American history. And that, you know what, if you want to come to this country the right way through the front door and are going to make contributions to this country and actually love the values of the United States of America, then yes, you do deserve a legal system to come to this country the right way. We deserve that, actually. It's about American citizens and our best interest. But that's a separate issue from sealing the border, which is what Biden has failed to do. And everything else he's claiming to do now is a smokescreen to try to inch past the finish line in this election.
You know what else we got to do? We got to deport the criminals. We got to, this Venezuelan kid who was part of a big Venezuelan gang who shot 2 cops here in New York and Queens earlier in the week. I'm trying to look in my notes for the name of the gang. I can't quite find it. But these gangs should all be deported, and people who are I know you're a criminal when you cross illegally, but you've got people here with criminal records who are killing people, young women, for example, shooting cops. As part of any reform, I know your heart is there. I know your head is there. We have got to deport these criminals.
Absolutely. And this is a stunning fact, Larry. There are over 1 million people in this country now who have had a final order of removal. That means they've gone through the entire appeals process, and the judicial system in this country offers them no more appeal after years. There's 1 million of them still in this country now. So the reality is the executive branch, including the Department of Homeland Security and other parts of the U.S. government, have the power to do this, to use different parts of the law, to co-opt local law enforcement, 287G, to be able to use other parts of the federal code, to actually use the National Guard and other resources to deport those who are here illegally and criminal. We're failing to do it now, but that is a fixable problem. But you want to know the best border policy of all at this point? It isn't passing some new law through Congress. It is to elect Donald Trump as the next president of the United States. And if we get that done and the right people are staffed to get this done, this border crisis is going to be behind us. That's the bottom line.
Vivek, Tren de Aragua. Tren de Aragua. They are the gang from Venezuela They have a lot of members here. They all ought to be deported. We ought to be deported. You're exactly right. 287G would give the Border Patrol the authority to go to the local cops, get them, break through the sanctuary city thing, and send them the heck out of this country because they are criminals, killing people, spreading drugs and whatnot. Last one, Vivek. It's so lovely to talk to you as always. Yeah. Last one. I think just today, the EPA is putting out now miles per gallon standard of 65 miles per gallon, all right, which in effect would ban gasoline-powered cars, and 80% of Americans are opposed to this. I don't know what poll you can look at. 70, 80% Americans want consumer choice, want to buy a gasoline car. They're not persuaded about EVs. And I think just today, the EPA put out 65 miles a gallon, which is, of course, unapproachable if you have a gas-powered car. Here they go. The pointy-headed bureaucrats from the best colleges in the country are just wreaking havoc on ordinary working folks. Vivek, what do you make of that one?
Well, this is the deep state at its finest, Larry.
Yeah.
The people we elect to run the government, they're not the ones actually running the government. The EPA was never elected by the people of this country. None of the bureaucrats there were. So how do you square that circle? Here's the answer. 80% of Americans don't want it, and they elect representatives to Congress who they would vote out if they voted for that policy. That's exactly why the EPA is getting done through the back door what the government could not get done through the front door through the constitutional lawmaking process. That is illegal. The Supreme Court already slapped the EPA on the wrist with West Virginia versus EPA in 2022. That's held a lot of their regulations for the coal industry unconstitutional. I think these regulations are unconstitutional too. And the right answer to this deep state cannot just be incremental reform. You got to shut large swaths of the federal government down, send many of these bureaucrats home packing, and rescind all of these unconstitutional federal regulations. That too is one of the ways that we're going to grow this economy and unite this country. And that's the problem of the deep state in a nutshell. It's not some theoretical issue. It's now affecting the lives of everyday Americans, and we are done with it.
Yeah, spot on. Vivek Ramaswamy.
My gosh, guys, it's devastating to think what all is happening, how it's happening, to know that there's gangs from other countries that are in here running rampant, shooting up American citizens with no protection, and they're not doing anything about it, and they're not taking necessary action. And instead of deporting these guys that are actual criminals, they're not doing anything. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. But if you feel like Joe Biden has ruined our country, definitely hit that like button. But guys, it's devastating to think that we allow all this to happen, all because of one president who just opened the borders.
Welcome back. Well, there were reportedly 10,000 migrants in Border Patrol custody yesterday. That's 4 times the limit set by President Biden's border executive action announced earlier in the week. 4 times. The New York Post is reporting that leaked documents reveal tens of thousands of migrants could be exempt from these new Biden restrictions. They write, quote, a memo seen by the Post reads this: single adults and family units who are very hard to remove may be considered for processing of expedited removal or placed into Section 240 removal proceedings. In plain English, Section 240 removal means they're released into the United States. President Biden was asked about his border action last night on ABC News. Watch.
Do you wish you had done it sooner?
No, because I would have been blamed for blowing up the agreement.
Your opponent, Donald Trump, he has said of your executive action, he's pretending to finally do something about the border. Biden's executive order is weak and pathetic.
Is he describing himself? Weak and pathetic? Come on. Look, everybody knows what's happened. We had a deal. It was much broader than this, much better, much more accepted across the board. And he got on the phone and told the Republicans, don't support it. It will hurt me, it will help Biden.
Joining me now live from Mission, Texas, is Texas Department of Public Safety Lieutenant Christopher Olivares. Lieutenant, great to see you. Thanks very much for being here.
Good morning.
I want to get your take on what the border encounters look like and assess the area for us post President Biden's executive order. What are you seeing?
Well, Maria, good morning. Of course, there has not been any immediate change as far as any significance of a decrease in legal border crossings since the announcement of the executive order. In fact, quite the contrary, the numbers, as far as daily numbers of the lawful crossings, remain the same at an average of 4,000 a day. That's between ports of entry. That's not taking into account those that are being processed at a port of entry through the CBP1 app, or those that are being processed that are being directly flown in from other countries into the United States. So there has not been a decrease at all whatsoever since this announcement. One thing I can tell you, though, in Texas, though, ever since January, Maria, there has been a 74% decrease in unlawful border crossings in Texas because of our efforts, because of Operation Lone Star, because of what Governor Abbott has put in place, and because of the tremendous work that our state troopers and National Guard soldiers have been doing on the front lines every single day. Now we're seeing this paradigm shift to the west. Arizona, San Diego, they're experiencing an influx because in those areas, you don't have National Guard, you don't have barriers, you don't have consequences. And one thing that really stood out to me, Maria, I think it's very important for the audience to understand, is that this executive order has so many exemptions, and it's going to create more of an incentive for people to actually make their way to the border and cross illegally. For one, there's some countries that are not going to accept their own people back into their countries. You're going to see a more increase of unaccompanied children because they are exempt from this executive order, as well as medical conditions. So now that gives the Mexican cartels more leverage to use because of this executive order. And they're going to exploit more children. They're going to become more victimized because of the situation that are going to be coming across the border. So it's very important. It doesn't address border security. It doesn't address the gotaways. It doesn't address actually preventing criminals that are entering our country illegally and actually going after those criminals that are in the country that are committing crimes.
Yeah, I think you make such a great point, and it's the point that I made yesterday. And that is, if you've got all these exemptions, like unaccompanied children are exempt, of course the drug cartels are going to exploit that. Of course they're going to go and quote unquote rent more kids, send them through, and then get them to pay their parents or whoever's going to pay for them. And they're just going to exploit children. I mean, this is actually really serious, what you just mentioned. And I agree that that's what you would expect. A moment ago, I just mentioned that there are 10,000 people right now in Border Patrol, and that's 4 times what the president is saying. I mean, he says that he's going to shut down the border when it reaches 2,500 a day. Obviously, people who want to come to America and people who have bad intentions are not going to say, oh, well, Biden has 2,500. I better not go today. So where are these people going to go? If you're telling me it's 4,000 a day right now where you are, I know the peak was all the way up to 8,000 a day, right?
Well, absolutely. Right. Of course, now, across the southwest border, daily average has been about 4,000. But right now in Texas, as I mentioned, we've seen a 74% decrease. So the numbers are very minimal as far as the lawful border crossings between the ports of entry in Texas because of our efforts. Now, going back to what I mentioned earlier, and of course, what you mentioned during your intro, talking about some of these exemptions and how they're using some of this wording, which also means, obviously, it's another word for just releasing individuals into the country, which they're going to continue doing. So it doesn't create any type of deterrence. In fact, it creates an incentive now where they want to try to normalize a threshold number to make it normal, and also to legalize illegal immigration. That's what we're seeing right now. And it just, like I said, it gives the cartels more leverage to exploit the situation, especially children. Right now, there's no DNA testing that's being done. So even adults that are bringing children across, you don't know for a fact if that is their actual family member. And now with this executive order, the cartels are going to take well advantage of that and continue to exploit children.
Right, of course. I want to get your take on what Texas Governor Greg Abbott announced this week, and that is a top 10 most wanted list of criminal illegal migrants in partnership with you and the Texas DPS. The migrants on this list are wanted for murder, sexual assault, and making terrorist threats. Lieutenant Oliveira, as you say, Texas DPS has arrested its first criminal migrant on the list who was wanted for murder. Tell us about this list.
Maria, this is another example of Texas actually taking, this decisive action, especially from our leadership, from Governor Abbott, our legislatures, our leadership within the agency, to actually come up and launch this program in partnership with Governor Abbott's office and the Texas Crime Stoppers to create a 10 most wanted criminal illegal immigrants list. These are dangerous individuals that have committed crimes in Texas, and some of them have been deported, and they have re-entered the country because, of course, we know what's happening right now, because when you have an unsecured border, you're going to have criminals from around the world that are going to make unlawful entry, which pose a significant threat to public safety and national security. These are dangerous criminals ranging from crimes from, burglary, assault, sex crimes with children, homicide. And the individual that we arrested yesterday was wanted for homicide. So these are dangerous individuals. Right now, since June 2011, we have documented well over 305,000 classified illegal immigrants that have committed crimes in Texas. Out of that number, 11,000 of those are wanted, and 4,000 of those are wanted for serious felonies. So these are dangerous criminals, but again, it shows what type of action we are taking, where we are actually addressing border security in Texas. We want to actually apprehend, identify, and arrest these criminals and take them to jail. So one thing that's very important to them, Maria, is that we need the public's help. They're the ones that can provide information on these wanted individuals. So that's why I ask anybody out there that has information on any of these individuals, you can go to our Texas DPS website or the governor's website. You can call 1-800-252-TIPS. That's our TIPS hotline, and you can provide information for a cash reward so we can actually identify and bring these individuals to justice.
Well, we've been worried about this Venezuelan gang that we've heard about that's raging around in New York right now. The NYPD told us that this gang from Venezuela is incredibly dangerous. Are those people on the list part of a gang? What's your? Yeah, it's Tren de Aragua is the gang that I'm referring to.
Yes, Maria, of course, we do have criminal gang members that are on this list. That's why it's so important we talk about border security and how the federal government has abdicated their responsibility to prevent the unlawful entry of criminal illegal immigrants, to include criminal gangs. Before we would always talk about MS-13, but now we're seeing this new gang from Venezuela, which is a prison gang, which they have established themselves in the country because, again, they've been allowed to enter the country illegally. We've seen all these crimes that are taking place in New York. Most recently, the two officers in New York that were shot, they were shot by one of these criminals that was part of a criminal gang from Venezuela. So very important. It's very critical that we have these type of programs in place so we can track down these criminals and bring them to justice.
Well, no wonder we've got these new Fox News polls that find voters in 4 states trust Trump over Biden to do a better job handling both the border crisis and immigration in general. In Florida, voters favored Trump to handle the issue by 21 points. In Arizona, it's 20 points. Voters favor Trump by 17 points in Virginia and by 22 points in Nevada. Lieutenant, everybody knows that under the Trump administration, these numbers were very different. And, the people who were coming here were much lower numbers.
Absolutely, Maria. Of course, the American people are well aware of what's taking place. They are upset. It is impacting them as well. We've seen so many crimes taking place throughout the country, so many victims that have been victimized by some of these criminal illegal immigrants that have been able to enter the country illegally. Fentanyl, so many victims that have died because of fentanyl poisoning. And we see what's happening right now. That's why every state is a border state. It does impact every single person in this country. And that's why it all goes back to having strong, decisive leadership that's willing to take action, that's willing to prioritize the safety and security of the American people in our country.
Okay, we will leave it there. Lieutenant, thanks very much for all of your efforts. It's good to see you this morning. We so appreciate you. Christopher Olivet.
Wow, so many people have yet to really grasp how serious this is, to see that there are gangs and unwanted, there's a lot of bad that is happening, guys. Where does that leave us? Where does that leave the United States? Because it may not be in your backyard, but it's still affecting our country. It's still affecting Americans every day. And there again, we are stuck in the middle because we have a president who has definitely made this country worse. And according to 59 votes, 88% of you guys say, yes, he has. And for some crazy, I can't fathom how that 11% of you say, no, he has not. Guys, I'm going to leave it up to you. You got this. Let them know in the comments down below. This is ridiculous. Our country is been in the worst shape it's ever been, and this is all because of one man. That is Joe Biden. And guys, we need help. I hope you have a wonderful night. God bless, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much. See you.